New line, new coach, sophomore bounce for Caleb, or a tough division and a steeper than expected learning curve in Ben Johnson's complicated offense. The ceiling for the Bears, 11-6, the floor, 6-11. Nick, what do you like here?
Ceiling. And I don't think that's the ceiling.
Ooh.
That's
always a good one.
I'm not predicting that they go 12-5, but I think it'd be crazy to act like that's impossible. That their best case scenario season is 11 wins. I think that's foolish. Listen, I understand Wild's skepticism of Ben Johnson thinking he's a genius when he hasn't yet been a head coach. I get that. I am, however, fully confident that they will have a better offensive plan, operation, and tactics than they had last year. I'm also fully confident, even if you guys think I overrated Caleb coming out of the draft, that he is, in year 2, going to be a better player than he was in year 1.
Definitely.
I'm also fully confident that their offensive line is going to be better this year with the additions they have made. You add to that the fact that I think you are going to see a slight comeback, not a slight, but a significant comeback from where Detroit was last year at 15 wins, where Minnesota was last year at 14 wins, and Green Bay maybe around the same where they were last year. They 11-6. I think the Bears going 11-6 is not only not the ceiling, but a pretty likely outcome. So I say 11.
Look, 11-6 is possible, but I'm saying the floor.
Wow.
All right, here's why.
What about the Budless bump for Caleb?
We'll see. But right now, I mean, Caleb clearly is kind of behind. Right now, I think there are going to be some growing pains early. And just because Ben Johnson was a fabulous offensive coordinator, that doesn't mean he's going to be a great head coach. Josh McDaniels is a great offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy was a great offensive coordinator. They didn't work out as head coaches, and they're obviously in a monstrous division with the NFC North. Then they play the AFC North. So, like, that's their schedule is really tough. So if it's not clicking, they will have some L's. So I'm not predicting 6-11, but I'm saying that's more likely than the ceiling.
So I've liked the Bears for the last couple of years, and when you look at this, they bring the 3 new offensive linemen. I think that's huge. I really like Colston Loveland, the tight end they got out of Michigan. I think he's going to be a significant weapon. Dennis Allen is the defensive coordinator, better than you think, especially in points allowed. And then we forget this, but they started 4-2 last season, and the Hail Mary game, if they'd won that, they would have been 5-2, and everything could have changed. So now they lost 10 straight after that. But this is not a team that's void of talent. I think they've got a lot more talent than people anticipate. And I don't know Ben Johnson very well, but I've liked the things that I've seen that he's said. So I'm going ceiling.
Did you hear?
Yeah. To me, this is like the most straightforward take ever. We still continue to undervalue coaching. I think even in the conversations that we still have, even when we appreciate coaching, we don't quite understand how many games can be won or lost strictly on coaching alone. Not even X's and O's and calling a timeout at the right time, right? Like even a game like we saw with Eberflus against the Lions and whatnot, read that infamous game that I think that was the last game he coached. Even stuff like that aside, just the preparation of getting these guys to understand, we got a game on Sunday. This is how we prepare. This is how we're ready. Like just even something like that. Something that you seemingly don't even discuss enough. And actually, ironically, I just realized this. If you watch the preseason game for the Chicago Bears with Caleb playing, I'm pretty sure Greg Olsen kind of talked about this, where he's like, we talk too much about the X's and O's with coaching and not enough of this other stuff. And it's so true. And Greg Olsen, it'll take me forever to find, but he had such a great take about a year ago about kind of all the other things that a coach can do. And he kind of, he was actually defending the whole walk around coaches that aren't so focused on schemes, that they get to now focus on all of these other things throughout the week, throughout the game, and how important and how crucial they are. And it's funny because I think people who haven't played and don't maybe understand the game as deeply as actual players who are obviously in the NFL, I think it's so easy to marvel at some of the more X's and O's type thing, because you're seeing like the greatness right in front of you, right? You're seeing an amazing play, an amazing throw, whatever it may be, it's more measurable in a lot of ways. And until you've really been around coaches, there really is a whole nother avalanche of skill sets that you need to have, that you need to instill in these players. And this has been one of my newer things that I keep trying to really push, is this idea of that, like, these guys are kids, and the coach is the guy who's responsible for getting everyone together. I mean, think about how a coach talks to his players and how they interact with each other. It's not like that really in like any other field. I mean, once you have a job, once you're working, and no matter what, whether it's a corporate job, blue collar, white collar, whether you're a carpenter, a painter, like, your boss, even if he could be a jerk and stuff like that, like, he's not going to talk to you the way a head coach is going to talk to you. And if Ben Johnson in the middle of practice starts yelling, he's like, "What are you doing? Let's go." That is not what you do. Like, whatever it is, like, insert any generic coach speak. No player is going to be able to walk up and say, "Hey, Ben, I'd like to talk to you. I don't appreciate the way you the way you handled this. I didn't like it. Like, it's not the way it works." But like in a more corporate setting, even like I said, even a more blue collar setting, if your boss is a little bit mean, you could be like, "Yo, Mike, I understand what you're saying. I get it. I painted the walls the wrong color. You didn't communicate with me enough. You told me that it was supposed to be blue originally. You didn't tell me that the client needed to change the color." Like, there's still like a little bit more room for some back and forth that you don't quite get in a coaching player relationship, and that dynamic matters. And it's always push and pull. It's not all or nothing. It's not 100% one way or the other, but it's just it's hard to put into words. And what I'm really trying to drive home is that I personally believe that Ben Johnson does everything better than what an Eberflus does, from an X's and O's standpoint, and all the other stuff, and everything else in between. Everyone truly understands that this is about football right now, that we are all united to be the best we can be. He runs a tight ship there, man, and that is very obvious. That is very obvious, very obvious. He is a highly detailed-oriented person, which now not only benefits the X's and O's, but then also all the other stuff. You know where you need to be at all times. You understand the preparation. You understand what you're looking to achieve. And if not, get out. When I was younger, I used to, coaches would always say that a lot. It's like, if you don't want to be here, then get out of here. I heard that so many times. And I always wanted to be there. So it was always like, like, it got boring. It got old, right? It was kind of like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then until you start to get more and more competitive and play at higher and higher levels, you do start to see people who just want it more than anything. And then you see people who don't. And I imagine that actually probably gets a little worse at the NFL level, because you undeniably have players who are there, but it's really just for the money. It's really just for all the other stuff. Like, they're not really about it. And I've talked about this a little bit loosely before, when you hear other ex-players talk about that like, depending on who you ask, they'll say that the majority of the players are like, they're not really there to win. They're not really there to go all in. It's a way how they can make a ton of money, and it's certainly better than anything else they can do. And so you kind of just do it. You even get a sense of that if you even watch a Hard Knocks. Sometimes they will highlight some players who you can just tell, and you're just like, what are you doing? I think it was one of the Lions Hard Knocks that I saw where they highlighted this one player where you're just like, he just like wasn't about it. And it's just so uncomfortable to watch, because you're just like, I would do anything to take your spot. Like, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you doing? You have this amazing opportunity. Can you please just act like you care? Like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? And to this day, coaches still highlight those players that go all in, that do everything they can, especially the guys that aren't the stars. And it's just like, that stuff resonates. That stuff matters. And there's this feeling that you kind of like age out of it, but like you're still at the core, you're still at the peak of all of this for a team, even at the highest level, even in the NFL. And so this team was such a mess from a personality-led standpoint, from the X's and O's standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, from just everything. And yet they still were able to win games. And until it completely unraveled, which again shows you that you need a leader and you need X's and O's, and you need someone who's going to have the right game plan, right play calling, and get everyone rallied together, that when you remove that, it just really collapses. But even when they were struggling to hold this together, they were still able to win some games. They were still able to be competitive. They were still able to just kind of be in it. And it popped. So to imagine that you're going to be potentially closer to the floor, which is what they were last year, than the ceiling, with better pieces, year 2 with your quarterback, a head coach who I understand he doesn't have a head coaching experience, but already is light years better, light years more mature, way focused. And you could just see the decisions that Ben Johnson is making. Like I even said, the decision to not even play Caleb from the jump in preseason shows Ben Johnson's maturity and understanding. I control inside this locker room. No one else does. I don't care what anyone else has to say outside of these walls. I control. You all want to see Caleb? That's great. I got my own path right now. I'm doing what I want to do and what I think is right for this team. To me, and I've loved a lot of the stuff that Ben Johnson has been doing throughout this, ever since he was hired. I even, did a whole video about his, when he first addressed the staff, which I really, really loved. That was probably my favorite thing that he did, where he was just like, I'm not playing Caleb right now. I don't really owe anyone a real explanation. I don't have to do a song and dance here. It's like, we had our practices, we did our snaps. That's what I was focused on. That's what we're doing. I'm doing what I want to do. And it wasn't combative. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't kind of trying to play the shell game where he was trying to be like, look over here. It was just football based. It was just like, this is what I'm doing. And this is how I'm doing it. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. And I love that. That is a man who is in control. And so Brew's bringing up some of these other coaches who tried to do certain things, other coordinators and whatnot. And we can even question what he said before about great coordinators, because I don't know how true that is. But they did not have that. They did not already bring what Ben Johnson is bringing. It was a lot of smoke and mirrors. It was a lot of pretending. And pretending only gets you so far, man. You always say, oh, fake it till you make it, but can only go so far with that. And I think even just watching Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson in that in his first preseason game, you can see the organization. You can see the coaching. You can see the comfort increasing with a Caleb Williams. This should give you nothing but optimism. So the idea that they're going to be closer to the floor than the ceiling is outrageous to me. This is to me what happens when you try to make a take that you think you should have, or that you think would be interesting or strategic, rather than just assessing the reality. It's what I always try to do. And it's why sometimes people will sometimes be like, oh, you're not making a decision or this or that. And it's just like, I'm just taking what I see in front of me right now, and that is my take. I'm not trying to figure out what do people want to hear, what do I think is something interesting. It's just like, I'm just trying to relay exactly what I see. And whether it ends up being right or wrong, we'll have to find out and let the season unfold. And that's when you change it. You start to have firmer conclusions as the season unfolds, so you can see what is week 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But to me, to look at how this is all unfolded, to even remotely be like, I think it's more likely that they reach the floor, that is a forced take to me. That is absolutely, positively a forced take that just, where's the actual evidence? Just because you have skepticism of Ben Johnson, and it's like, that then leads you now to be more towards the floor? It doesn't actually make sense. It really doesn't. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Chicago Bears? Do you think they're more likely to hit the ceiling or the floor? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.